2, 3, 4.
Run up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about a common problem in cars and how you can fix it. And that's a car that isn't running correctly, but the check engine light is not on. Now most people are going to think, hey, my car's not running. That'll put the check engine light on because something's wrong and show me what's wrong. But that is often not the case. Check engine light on your car only comes on when your car goes beyond a certain parameter of problems. It has to be a certain percentage of wrong. Often it's around 20%. So say your car's off by 15 or even 19%. You'll often feel it. It won't ride right, won't idle right, but it won't trip the code because the computer has certain parameters it has to meet. And if it doesn't go over or under plus 20% or minus 20% on the data, it won't turn the check engine light on, because the check engine light was originally designed to save the anti-pollution system, the catalytic converter. So if something really goes wrong that would ruin the catalytic converter, if you ever had this happen to your car, now you know what it means. You go down the road and your check engine light isn't just on, it's flashing. And if it's flashing, it means, oh, it can do immediate damage to your catalytic converter, so you're not supposed to drive it. So originally the check engine light system was made more to protect the anti-pollution equipment of the car than to actually tell you what's wrong with the car when it breaks. If it was meant to show you what was wrong with the car, it would have been a much more sophisticated system. But it isn't. You're going to have to deal with this if your car isn't running right, but the check engine light isn't on. That's where scan tool data comes in real handy, because with these modern scan tools, you can get what's called mode 6 data, that's interpretive data. You can get live data, you can get historical data, and if you have a smart one like this that's actually color coded, then you can glimpse through all the data pretty fast. If it's not black but it's turned red, that means that particular area has a problem. A really good one like this will show you the parameters on it so you can see, and you can say the fuel injection pulse 15% off. It's quite a bit, so that's got to be something we're going to have to look at. If everything else is a lot closer than that, but one is way off, you know, that's a look at first. So in this case, we'll plug the scan tool in here at the data port. Easy enough to do. And we'll start looking at stuff. I'm lazy, we'll do automatic selection. It knows what kind of car it is. It had no trouble codes when I scanned it. We'll go to control unit, and we're basically gonna look at the live data. There's live data. So we can immediately see the oxygen heater current is going into the orange. Back and forth. That's the brilliance of these good scan tools. A lot of data you got through pages and pages and pages, but if they're color coded like that, you know, that's one symptom. We'll go through them all, see if there's any other ones. There's a lot of data, but you can see how fast it is going this way. None of the other things were orange. So, in this case, it's got a weak oxygen sensor. No surprise, the vehicle's got 100-something thousand miles on it. It's the oxygen sensor, sensor 2, the one that's after the catalytic converter. Now, it'd be nice if everybody had that fancy scan tool. Of course, you're not going to go buy yourself a $3,500 scan tool unless you're a mechanic. But even with a plain old regular scan tool that you get live data, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, as I'm going to show you. I'll just hook up this plain old scan tool, show you the stuff you can do with that. And you can even get a $30, $40 scan tool that'll give you live data. You just go to view data, press enter, and we'll get a whole bunch of data out of it. Clambering through all the 329 PIDs that it has. We'll go for the entire data list. And away it goes. Now, one of the early data you'll see is the equalization ratio. Perfect is 1.000. And you can see this thing is going between 0.987, 0.993, 1.006. For a car with over 100,000 miles, that's not bad. It's perfect. It's adding a little fuel, then it subtracts a little bit of fuel. But that's not bad for an old thing like this. But here's something that means a lot. If we go to the long-term fuel trim, it is subtracting 15%. It hasn't tripped the check engine light, but if it was subtracting 20%, it would. 15% still is, you know, pretty important. It's telling you that the engine sees it's getting too much fuel. So it's subtracting fuel from the air-fuel ratio. Meaning if for some reason this thing is getting a little bit too much fuel. Could be a dirty MAF sensor, which you could try cleaning. Could be fuel injectors that maybe are leaking a little, so you could do a pressure cleaning of the fuel injectors. For some reason, too much fuel is getting into the engine. As you can see now, it's subtracting 16.4%. I predict if this car was just driven over any length of time, eventually it would trip the code. But as you can see here, even a cheaper scan tool with just basic live data, you can get a lot of information if you learn a little bit about what that information means. So as you can see, even with a basic scan tool, a little bit of information can go a long way once you understand what that information is. Years ago, this stuff wasn't available except at very expensive. You might have to have gotten out a freeze frame oscilloscope and stuff, but with electronics being upgraded in these modern days, you can get a lot of information out of even a small scan tool. And hey, with your phone and the internet, you can watch my videos, you can watch other guys' videos. You can learn a lot about this information very quickly and very accurately just by looking it up on Google or YouTube. Now, I'm not saying it's the end all. There are some things that the tool isn't going to help you with, where then you got to think, okay, there's no check engine light on, but maybe your car doesn't even start. What do you do then? Well, then you use your head again and comprehend, what does an engine need to start? Well, it needs fuel to get into the engine, it needs air to get into the engine, and it needs ignition power to ignite it. So, one of the really common reasons a car won't start if it cranks over is because you're not getting any fuel. And unless you're in a very new, relatively high-tech, expensive car, most vehicles, the computer has no idea if the fuel pump's working. They don't have a sensor that sees if the fuel pump is pumping fuel or not. So you got no check engine light, no codes, the car won't even start. First thing you want to check is see if you got any fuel pressure, because the computer can't trip any codes about bad fuel pump if it doesn't have a sensor that sees how much pressure the fuel pump's putting out. Now, like I say, some modern, very high-tech cars have those sensors on too, so in that case, you would get a code. But most vehicles, you won't get a code if you got a bad fuel pump. So, if your car won't start, not any codes, just pop your air filter, spray a little starting fluid in. If it starts right up and then dies, odds are your fuel pump isn't working. Yeah, you will have to take the stupid two little bolts off, pop the air filter housing, and then spray it in, but it's not that hard to do. And anyway, you get a 2-for-1 here. I've had customers bring me cars that were running very poorly. I'm pulling off the top to try to spray some starting fluid in, and I look, and the air filter's all completely clogged up. You wouldn't believe how many times people have brought me cars that ran extremely poorly or had failed the yearly emissions test for too much pollution, and the only thing that was wrong with the car, and I mean only, was the air filter was so clogged up with crud that the engine couldn't breathe right. So of course, you always want to check something like that, and do look at the thing 3-4 times a year, you know? A lot of air goes in your car, a lot of dirt will get stuck in a filter. Check it every once in a while, it's no big deal. And if you're really lucky in this car, that could be the problem. It isn't, but it could, because it is subtracting fuel long term, saying that the car is getting too much fuel. It could be that the car is getting too much fuel, but it could also be that it's not getting enough air. If that air filter was really clogged up badly, it would run rich because you'd have the fuel going to the engine, but you wouldn't have enough air mixing with it. And of course, the computer can change how much air is sprayed in the engine with the fuel injectors, but it's got no control over how much air goes through the air filter. It doesn't have a magic arm that could throw it out and then open it up. It isn't in this case, but I mean, theoretically, it could have just been a clogged air filter. Scan tools are great, they give you a lot of information, but you still have to be logical about it. They're not magic bullets that say, go here, replace this part. Even when you do get a code, the codes that you see are PO codes, and those like PO116, PO135, they're PO codes, and PO codes are relatively generic code. Any code you get on this thing is a PO code. Sometimes it can have dozens of different causes. So they're not exactly telling you the perfect thing that's wrong with the car. Really, the live data on these things is actually more important for a real fix on your car, because they're giving you the actual data that's coming out where you can say, okay, let's see, why would a car run rich? And then you know what things to check. If you just have a check engine light that says oxygen sensor, hey, it could be a problem with the oxygen sensor, it could be a problem with the catalytic converter, it could be a problem the fuel injectors aren't giving enough gas. There's a lot of reasons. And with live data, you can get a much better idea of what's really going on inside your car. But never, ever forget to start with basics. Like I say, I've had cars come over here with a clogged air filter. The only thing that was wrong, especially in these variable valve timing engines, if you have dirty oil in the engine that's sludging things up, it can make the variable valve timing not work right. It can trip all kinds of codes. You can lose acceleration. The engine can start clanging away, all because the oil is too dirty. Always start with the basic stuff. You got a car like this, got over 100,000 miles. Why not just pop out the spark plugs? This thing's easy. You take that plastic cover off, there's the plugs, take the coil on plugs off, you can change them. Wouldn't take you 15 minutes on this particular engine. Always start with the logical things. If you haven't done things in a long time, definitely do them. Even something as nutty as dirty coolant in your radiator. Modern cars are so computerized that if your coolant gets to a certain degree of filthiness, it actually starts conducting millivolts of electricity. That electricity can make the sensors on your engine go absolutely bananas. I've had cars come here that were 10, 12 years old. No one ever changed the coolant. The car didn't overheat or anything, but it was running wacky. It was tripping codes all over the place. The only thing that was wrong was the coolant was dirty, and it was then conducting electricity and making the sensors go haywire. See, even something as dumb as having dirty coolant. You know, you should change it. Like most coolants last at least 5 years. Change it once every 5 years. Do it in your driveway. Easy enough to do. But if you forget to do it, and you get all these problems and people are scratching their heads, I don't know what's wrong with this car, only to find out it was dirty coolant. Always do the maintenance obvious things first, because you don't want to overthink. Spend days checking everything. Or one of my customers' husbands did once. He worked at an auto parts store, so he thought he knew about cars, but he actually knew nothing. He tried fixing his car. She brought it over and he says, "My husband doesn't know what he's doing. Can you fix it?" I opened the hood. It's got like 12 new parts, mass airflow sensor, you name it, all kinds of new parts. And it still ran bad because the guy wasn't looking at the obvious things. And in the case of that one, it was transmission fluid. The transmission fluid was so dirty that it wasn't going right. And with a modern car, with the transmission and the computer and the engine are all an integral unit that interact amongst each other, and even problem in the transmission can make it seem like the engine isn't running right. He had dirty transmission fluid, and he'd spent thousands of dollars on parts, didn't fix it. Always start with the basic stuff. And speaking of basic stuff, since this is Mechanic Monday, I'm going to give away one of these scan tools so you can learn how to fix your own car a logical way. To have a chance to win, place a clean, non-offensive comment on the YouTube comments below, and a winner will be chosen randomly by computer to get this decent scan tool to learn how to fix their own car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.